but I want the labor guys to do
Welcome in to this week at Missouri Politics, TWMP Daily. Very glad to be joined by Senator Maggie Nurnberg. Senator, congratulations. And I keep saying that. You've been a senator for 2 months now, but welcome to the show.
Thank you. Always fun to be with you, Scott, and chat about everything going on.
Well, let's talk about the biggest thing going on first. A week from tonight is our Statesman of the Year event. This year it is Judge Mary Rose Russell, the Chief Justice of the Missouri Supreme Court. It is really an honor to honor her. And the other part of our program is the Women's Legislative Caucus auction. Tell folks about, let's just start off at the top. Everybody knows Judge Russell.
Oh, she's incredible. I mean, I have such respect for her. And you talk about honoring a true statesperson. Mm-hmm. That's exactly who Judge Russell has been throughout her entire career. And I have a pretty awesome connection with Judge Russell as I went to Truman State. She was on the Board of Trustees when I was there as a student. There's only a few people that I think love Truman State as much as me, and I can say that she truly is one of them.
It's a pretty aggressive list. You have yourself, you have her, Senator Sifton, former Mayor Cruson, United States Senator Eric Schmidt. The college is impressive.
It is impressive. And I have, today my staff, I have an intern from Truman State. I was a Truman State intern. Oh. I hired my former Truman State intern as my legislative assistant. Really awesome school, and it's awesome to be part of this. But honestly, back to Judge Russell.
Well, no kidding. If you have Truman on your resume, you get an interview from me.
Yeah.
It's top of the pile. It is what it is. I've gotten some of the best people I've ever worked with. It is that impressive.
Yep. No, absolutely. I'm really fortunate to have gone to school there and to have the education that I did, the experiences that I was able to obtain. I mean, I truly say I wouldn't be in the Missouri Senate today except somebody mentioned to me, hey, you should really consider taking that internship at the Missouri Capitol. Senator Chuck Gross from St. Charles, the chair of appropriations, took a bet on me and brought on board this liberal hippie intern. Truly, I was going into the Peace Corps after I finished my internship, and had the most incredible time learning from people who had very different philosophical perspectives as my own. But that's what Truman State's all about. It's about pushing you, about broadening your horizons. And here I am today, now in the Missouri Senate.
Look at that. And you are kind of chairing this auction.
I am.
This is awesome. Now, first of all, tell me about the group and what you guys do.
Yeah, so Women Legislators of Missouri is a bipartisan, bicameral group of women legislators. Okay. And this group started decades ago when women realized that they had much more that in common than divided them across parties, right? And this is in the time when Democrats controlled a lot, but recognizing how valuable the input from their Republican counterparts really was. And there were issues that they realized they could come together on and move legislation because they had the common factor of being women who wanted to get stuff done. It was never about them. It was never about their egos. It was just what was good for the state, and that's what they did. And so this group has been around for a long time, and I give so much credit to my predecessors for keeping this organization strong, something that I joined right when I got into the legislature, my first year back in 2021. And kudos to Judge Russell.
Yes.
She does a great job bringing together women legislators. She hosts a chili dinner every year with the other judges. I mean, these are opportunities for us to get together, again, not talk about anything partisan whatsoever, but recognize how important it is just to be there and support one another.
Well, and I just think it's she's such an impressive person. She's such a very elegant lady. But I think, when I would see her in Jeff City, she'd be at a restaurant over the corner. I would never go up and talk to her because I was like, well, that's Judge Russell. That's, But when you actually get a chance to meet her in a social setting, you realize she kind of likes people to come in and say hi.
Oh, she's down to earth as
But
can
I'll be
be.
honest with you, without events like you're talking about, there's a lot of people that would never go up to her because you just think, well, she's busy, she's more important, don't mess with her. But when you get it in a social setting, then you're like, oh, wow. And I think that's good for not just relationships, good for the judiciary, good for the state.
It is, yeah. And I got to say, she's the hostess of the mostest. She really does. She rolls out the red carpet for us every time we go over to the court. But I think she recognizes just how important and valuable those relationships really are. And so I give you a lot of credit, Scott, for putting together this event, for honoring her. Last year we had President Pro Tem Cindy O'Laughlin and recognizing the first stateswoman of the year. And now here we have Judge Russell.
The year before that, we had McKenna screwing up your name.
Yeah, he brought me on stage, Scott. I think it's important just to rehash this, how this all went down.
I think this is the most, this is actually why I had you on.
This is how this all happened.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm going to share this directly to the camera. So when you're honoring women legislators of Missouri, typically you think if I'm going to have a panel of individuals for this event, I should probably have a woman or somebody who could speak to the importance of the women legislators. So Scott, as he often does, assembled a really fine panel of individuals. I remember former Governor Jay Nixon was up there. We had, help me out, who all was on the panel at the time?
So for Rizzo's, gosh, I think we had Victor. Do we have Victor?
Yep, Victor Callahan was there.
We had Governor Nixon. We had McKenna. We had Hummel. Spoke.
Hummel was there.
And we had...
So it was a nice panel of men.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the event's getting ready to start, and they said, "Gosh, we should have somebody up here."
Okay, now wait a minute. Wait, no.
Women legislators.
No, I got to step in. That's not correct, and we're going to have to call Gretchen. Every year, I want somebody that's a member of the group to come, and since we've done this partnership, this is our 5th year.
Okay.
I always want somebody to come up and explain why you're giving your money to.
Okay. So maybe that's what happened. I walked
what happened
in
is they asked
door,
you right
and
before
I got
the thing.
voluntold, Maggie, you need to go up on that panel.
Yes.
So Scott writes out the itinerary really quickly, and in your chicken scratch, and hands it to Ryan McKenna. Is this correct?
Well, yes, but also at the time, this was 2 years ago, I was like, well, you know Maggie. And he's like, yeah. And I go, well, you should actually know she's going to be a state senator. It's, you know, if I'm a lobbyist, right, and you're very likely to be a state senator, it's hard to know all the House members, right? There's a bunch of them. But the ones that are going to be senators, you probably like dog ear that one, say, okay. And so I handed him the thing, which the writing is, I have bad writing, but he knew who you were. It's just a matter of screwing your name up, and then he dropped the ball on your name.
Yeah, and I can't remember. Vicky Hamilton. Something not even close to Maggie Nurenburn. So I turned it back over at the end of the program to Brian McKenzie. And here we are today. But fast forward, honestly, a few years, and this program gets bigger and better every year. And last year, because of the partnership with the State's Person of the Year award, we were able to raise a record amount of money. And in turn, all of that money goes right back out the door to fund scholarships for young women across the state. So last year, and I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I know that we awarded 16 $1,000 scholarships.
That's awesome.
So every congressional district in the state, we make sure that we have representation truly from across the state.
If somebody's watching, how can they apply to get one of those?
So if you go online, and we'll post right after this too, but there's an online Women Legislators of Missouri Scholarship, and any graduating senior who is a woman graduating from a Missouri school this year, whether you're private school, public school, homeschooled, if you're graduating this year, you can go on and apply for that scholarship. And I've got to tell you, not only the cool thing about this scholarship, it's that it is peer reviewed by women legislators, and we come together to pick the scholarship recipients. Mm-hmm. And then we roll out the red carpet and welcome you here to the Capitol. The First Lady is hosting us for a reception at the Governor's Mansion.
What are you looking for when you're evaluating these scholarship applications?
So it is a merit-based scholarship. We want to see true women leaders in their schools, whether they're a leader in their school, in their community, in their athletic team. We want to show that you have real leadership abilities, capabilities, and you're doing what you can to give back some of your talent to service. And so that's a big part of it. One of the questions that we ask in an essay is, if you were a woman legislator, what would you want to accomplish in the legislature and why?
I like that.
And it is one of the most powerful things to read.
If somebody would have asked high school senior Maggie Nurenburn, well, I wasn't Nurenburn at the time.
Maggie Wolcott, yeah.
All right. If someone would have asked you that question as a senior, what do you think you would have said? Okay, Kelton,
goodness.
What if someone would have asked you that question? What would you like, as a guy legislator, what would you have said? Or, female, either way.
I don't know if I'd have a good answer.
Tax cuts, probably.
I definitely don't like paying my taxes.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm sure I would have said something very noble about funding education.
Helping the world and all that,
but it's awesome to see these people and know that one day they are going to have our jobs.
Yeah.
That's a powerful thing.
I love the whole thing. It was such a cool way it came together, as in Gretchen coming to my office and telling me we're going to combine these events, and I was like, well, great, I'm in. And then she goes, no, I said, I already said yes. And Gretchen wanted a triple yes, and I was like, cool. And so let's look at some of this stuff. I will tell you this, and I know Gretchen has moved on, and now she runs St. Louis County or something, but this is the best lineup we've ever had.
And I'm going to give Gretchen so much credit for building this caucus into what it is today.
We tease her. She's the best.
Gretchen, thank you for already volunteering your time to be back. She will be with us all day next Tuesday, helping to set up this auction. I mean, you talk about...
Gretchen, we tease her, is one of the... There's a handful of people I've met in the legislature that are just special people to me. Paula Brown, one of those folks. Yep. Gretchen, Carla Esslinger, the type of people that...
They're all women.
Yeah, I mean, I've also met, some dirtbags like a Lincoln Huff and different people like that. But I really do. It is I have a daughter. And when I think what I want, what are some qualities I'd like for her to have? Yep. I think of people like Carla. I think of people like Paula. I think of people like Gretchen. I just
really
admire
good
so much.
Humans that want to leave everything a little bit...
Intelligent, competent, but truly... They have a good heart about it.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. So Gretchen will be back. So speaking of your friend Lincoln Huff, we had some time yesterday, side of the Senate. So I'm sitting there on the bench, and I said, so Lincoln, what would you like to donate to the Women Legislators auction? And he said, what do you want me to donate? And so obviously knowing that he has plenty of cattle, he generously has offered to donate a quarter steer.
Nice.
So Missouri, grass-fed.
Or Missouri.
Missouri grass-fed beef, so that will be an awesome. But I got to give a lot of credit to our leadership. You talk about
I'm going down the list here.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so I got real tough questions for you today. So dinner with the Senate Minority Leader Doug Beck. We got a quarter of a steer from Huff. We have dinner with Denny Hoskins. I was at the Lincoln Day last night in Cole County, by the way. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Do you know who had the top item at the Cole County Lincoln Day? It was dinner with Denny Hoskins. It was the top auction item.
How much did it go for?
$600.
Okay, we should be able to get at least 1,000.
Well, no pressure, Denny. Ashley Hawney, who I'm going to bid on. Chad Perkins. I'm interested to see the back and forth there. Alex Riley, John Patterson, Cindy O'Loughlin, Tony Luke Temeyer, and First Lady Claudia Kehoe. These are individual dinners, lunch, whatever. People could bid on and see, and if you win... And it's fun to watch. Like, I think we should have some kind of scoreboard here to see who gets the highest.
We've got to put this on.
Yeah, how
this needs to be on the screen.
You have to really think about the order we do this
I'll talk to Jeff Knight. I'm sure he'll have some good ideas as our auctioneer. But
you go lead off with Claudia?
Oh my God! She was so generous and right away saying, "What can we do to help?" And so she's hosting lunch at the mansion for 4 people. I mean, so that's a special opportunity.
I hate to say this, but she's almost too cool to be a first lady.
Yeah,
like Mrs. Nixon. I always thought, okay, that's very much like a first lady. Claudia Kehoe's almost such a cool person. It's almost like she's above it. But she's so down to earth and just makes you feel very comfortable.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, let's look at some of this other stuff. I'm going to save the best one for last. Kansas City Current tickets. That'll be cool. 4 games. Premium tickets to the South Carolina game on the 20th for Mizzou. That's cool. Softball player draft. This is a big deal.
The charity softball tournament.
We could have got so much money from Elijah Haar on this softball thing.
Yeah.
If he was still speaker, we would have picked his pockets so big on this softball draft.
So you talk about some serious talent in the Missouri legislature, lobbyists, some of our folks that work in different state departments. There's a lot of talent.
There's Highway Patrol.
And when it comes to starting to recruit, of course. So when it comes to recruiting for your team, you have to have a certain ratio of men and women on your team, and it's really hard to find women who are willing to play. We've got some of the best women.
And that are good.
We have
the team
we
that
have
wins
the best
isn't the
women.
Dudes. Yeah. It's never the guys that win this thing.
No,
it's who has the best coordination of women is who wins.
So the women have graciously offered to be part of our first ever softball player draft.
I love this. We have some camo stuff. We have some. I bought one of these one year. So what happens is there was this awesome Bob Griffin ashtray that somebody donated, And I feel like an idiot. I get there, and I bid on it, and I bid like high. And I couldn't get back there to it, and somebody got it from me. This year, though, we're going to push these silent auction items throughout the night. Not we don't need to bury McKenna again, but we're going to push the silent auction items, unlike McKenna. Then we have the team poster, some records. That's kind of cool. It's a cool gift. 2-night stay at Old Town Inn from Kathy. Is Old Town Inn in Columbia?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
We'll have some information
I like
on
that,
the on the.
Got some ground beef. So with Chiefs. We have some helmets signed by some Chiefs. 2 tickets to Don Quixote. Do you ever feel like Don Quixote sometimes?
That's exactly.
That's kind of what you signed up
That's exactly what I feel like. I'm looking around, looking for my windmills.
Oh, some
all
old
of it.
campaign posters. I like that. Flipping through here, gift basket of wine. I like that. American Darling purse. I assume that's awesome. Some Cardinal tickets from Barget and Associates. That's cool. This is neat. A private game night, movie night at Capitol Cinema. That's actually really cool. I like that. So we're going to look at some Chiefs tickets, probably some more Cardinal tickets. But the best thing, 4 pottery classes. How cool is that?
Yeah.
I'd be like on Ghost or something.
And this is going to be ongoing. We have stuff coming in every single day.
Yes, if you want to donate.
So please, if you have anything, if you're a lobbyist, you have clients, and you think, hey, I think we can, provide a nice suite at a Chiefs game at whatever that team that plays baseball is over in St. Louis.
The 11-time world champion St. Louis Cardinals that you were talking about?
It may be. Our Kansas City Royals, we're going to have tickets to the Royals, to the KC Current.
You should have seats available.
So everybody wants to come out and see
I know you have actual work
Bobby Witt, and I'll tell you what.
Bobby Witt's a draw. Bobby Witt's a draw.
This team is something, and you just started to see the light there at the end of the season as we made it to the playoffs. How did you guys do in the playoffs, Scott?
Yeah, it's been the seventh circle of hell.
Okay, so needless to say,
the
Royals tickets are going to be big. The Chiefs tickets are going to be big. If anybody wants to go over to the other side of the state and see whatever red team is over there, you guys are welcome.
I was on the fence about Trump, but I'm ready to blow the world up. We've missed the playoffs 2 years in a row. The one time we did, our manager gave the game. I don't want to talk about it. Let's talk about my favorite thing on here, though. You have got a rent-a-farmer. 2 farmers for the day.
Not one, but 2.
Dose. You have Curtis Gregory and Dane Deal will come to your house, and I think they would do about anything for the women legislators fund. If not Maggie, they have to deal with her. They could do, I don't know what. To me, if I win this, I have a whole devilishly fun day planned. It's going to be great. But they'll come, do whatever you need at your house, whatever
8 hours.
you need.
8 hours of Dane Deal, Curtis Gregory, whatever you need. If you got a laundry list of, the Honey Fix-It list going on, if you got yard work that needs to be done, if you have a farm and you want to put them to work, I think we have a governor that probably could use some help on the farm. He's got a lot going on these days. Governor, we got 2 farmers who, I guess they're pretty decent workers. I can't really speak to that.
Well, they're tall,
They're tall, big guys.
They're talkers, but Dane.
Yeah, but
Dane's a talker.
What I'm saying is it's 8 hours. Be ready with your list, right? They get there whatever time you want them to start in the morning and have them ready to work for you. So how fun is that they've donated that? And like I said, we got more stuff coming. So if you look at that list, you talk about awesome bipartisan, bicameral support. This is really going to be an awesome community event. Next Tuesday, 6 to 7
is dinner, a tremendous lady.
Drinks.
I mean, it's kind of cool to think back at the list of people. We had Governor, at the time, Senator Kehoe was the first one. Governor Parson, Caleb Jones, Schatz. I'm forgetting one. Put in there, obviously, Rizzo, Cindy, and now Judge Russell. I'm forgetting one. Oh, Senator Blunt.
Yep.
Which was one. That was probably my favorite event.
That was a very special event.
Because I was so honored to have Senator McCaskill come.
And I actually talked to Senator Blunt about that last week when he was here. And Senator McCaskill, to see her comments and her praise of what it was like for the 2 of them to be in D.C. for such a long time. And again, true statespeople that recognize so often they had to put their differences aside and do what was good for the state of Missouri and the nation. And that's what they did.
I honestly felt like when we had her and Senator Blunt, we had the best 2 senators of any state.
A special pair.
Yeah, I thought we had the best lineup of any state in the union.
Talking about Senator Blunt, too, if I can, what I really appreciate about him is how he valued the appropriations process. I still say today, I'm so grateful for the things that we were able to do in terms of infrastructure. You talk about the legacy he left in this
What
state
I love about
because
you,
of
though,
that.
is that when I talk to you, you could put, you're a person who can debate an issue, and then you could even, if you wanted to for fun, you could probably switch sides. I watched Victor Callen and Chris Koster one night in the Senate. They were talking about the village law bill, which back in the day probably was around the time you were interning. That would have been the same.
2006.
So this would have been 7,
Okay.
I think, 7 or 8. But they were filibustering, and so I forget which side they were. Koster was on one side, and Victor was on the other. And they did an hour arguing, debating, no, you're wrong, this is it. And they debated the bill. And then Chris buttoned his jacket, and that was the signal. And Victor goes, Senator, you've convinced me. I agree with you. And then Koster goes, no, Senator, you've convinced me. And they started going another hour, and you could just see Charlie Shields was the president. He's like, "Oh God,
Here we go.
This is not great." You always like that. I think though, with some of these issues, you can argue them forward, you can argue them backward, right?
Mm-hmm.
I see both sides of a lot of different things. It's that ability to find that common ground, I think, is the value. And I think the running theme of a Roy Blunt or Claire McCaskill, I might think you should cut taxes. And great, cut taxes, as far as I'm concerned, demand me. But with the money you're taking in now, we should get our share. And those two, I think, we're committed to us getting our share. I'll tell you who doesn't get enough credit right now, Bob Onder. He came right in, said earmarks, whatever you want to call them, I don't care. I want my state to have them. I want all the money.
And that's the reality,
And
right?
I'm
If this
a
is
big
how
fan
the
of that.
process works, right? It's going.
Yep.
If we're not getting the money home in Missouri, then it's going to California and to New York.
Yep.
Right. So this is how the process works. I mean, we're doing, and again, Governor Blunt, I said that to him last week. We've been able to do amazing things in this state.
If a person
with
wants to cut
those federal
spending, that
dollars.
to me is a totally understandable, and I frankly agree with it most of the time, point of view. But if you're going to spend X dollars, Missouri should get our share of X dollars.
Yep.
And I really think sometime some folks don't really put their time into really thinking through how things are going to be, because you're right, and that's why I've been impressed with Honda. I'll be honest with you. If you'd have told me Bob was just going to go up there, not do earmarks and suck, and talk on Fox News and complain all day, I'd have been like, well, it's disappointing. But the fact he has jumped into this job and done every single thing you could ask for as a person from Central Missouri. He's been great, and honestly, I'm embarrassed to say you could have told me a different story and I might have believed it. But he's been outstanding so far. Now he's been there 2 months, but everything he's done thus far shows I'm going to take this job seriously and do it well. Now, Bob is going to say things on the internet or Fox News or whatever, but to me, okay, fine. That's in the noise, and who cares? He's talking about delivering. I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Well, I hope there'll still be some federal dollars to bring home.
There will be. There's been the glut came, right? But there's still, the federal government spends a lot of money every year, and Missouri should get ours.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we continue to get our federal dollars when there's some really awesome things happening with the Soybean Innovation Lab.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of these federal programs have just recently been cut because of Trump executive orders. I really hope that we can see the value in those and restore those and continue to do good stuff here.
Yeah, I some of the stuff he's doing, with Trump, it's like you look at him like, oh, he's lying, he's this, he's that. But when you talk about cutting DEI funding in Egypt, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to pay for that. Some of the more egregious things they've identified has really given them cover to do a lot more than maybe. I don't know that I think the American public, I think people that voted for Trump are like, yeah, I don't want to fund DEI training in Bangladesh.
So,
but they do want to fund the USDA programs.
Yeah, and there's
backyard.
really good USDA programs where right here we're getting the latest science on what we can do to increase our soybean production. That's a good thing for Missouri, and it's a good thing for areas of the world that have a lot of issues with drought or flooding and all of that. I also, I come back to Trump and some of the real consequences of his actions. Just today I'm hearing from people who say their Social Security check is 5 days late already. And so
really?
You talk about people and the real consequence these actions are having, whether it's our universities, our hospitals.
5 days is important.
All of these things that, it's real consequences on our people. So hoping some of the noise starts to quiet down and we get back to real governing. And again, I think it can be a good thing when the pendulum swings and we bring some balance. But in that, you have to recognize that whatever you do today, especially when it's rushed through without allowing the proper process to play out, having bills go through Congress, right? That's supposed to be a long, painful, deliberative process. Not everybody gets what they want, but at the end of the day, it's something everybody can live with. And that's what we got to get back to.
So let's talk a few issues. Last night, interesting night. You've had a lot to say on Senate Bill 10. Essentially, the compromise is they're sunsetting a lot of tax credits,
Yep.
a lot of programs. They're sunsetting, I think, one of the most important thing the state of Missouri does with the FRA. They're going to end that sunset. And in that, somebody came up with the idea to end the sunset on the SAFE Act. I think, had a lot of thoughts on that. End of the day, though, it does feel like that's a compromise where everybody at least can see, even if they don't know on the bill, can see some good in it, it felt like.
Well, there were a lot of important
Huge
provisions
bill.
that were in that sunset. It was a massive omnibus bill, right? We started with a little, design and build for political subdivisions. That was the original Senate Bill 10, right? And then it morphed into what we have today. And, I think that was, again, the product of a lot of compromise. And at the end of the day, I don't think everybody is happy with the end product, how it turned out. I certainly am not. There's still have some heartburn about what went down. I think at the end of the night, we started seeing some real divisions with Freedom Caucus. And I think as you have said and others have said, then come to the floor and have that debate, right? Be a senator. Be somebody who's able to stand on the floor and say what you mean and don't have others do your bidding for you.
Do you find it odd? Because I do. The rural legislators just let the suburban Republicans walk all over them. They treat them like shit.
It was a strange night. And again, we, here I am as a senator in the minority party. We'll find interesting alliances across the board, right? With our moderate Republicans,
Is it time to start
sometimes with the
asking
Freedom.
the question? If you don't have the time and the state doesn't have the bandwidth to take care of agriculture, our biggest and most important industry, does the state have time to take the St. Louis Police Department on?
Well, I think our ag and really making sure that we're watching out for Missouri farmers and one of the most important industries in the state. If we can't do that, then we probably need to take a few steps back and make sure that our time and our energy can be focused on that.
I really think it's time for rural legislators, because the practice in the chamber you're now in has been, if you don't get what you want right now, you stop everything for as long as it takes to get what you want. Which, okay, fine. I don't like that. That's unfortunate, but that's what it is. The rural legislators have let the suburban legislators pay by a whole different set of rules. And they've been walked on. And their constituents suffer because they let them walk all over them. I was happy last night that the majority party said, no, we're not going to take the ag stuff out. Let's be honest.
And Democrats voted with Lincoln on this. I mean, we were really loud in saying, no, that's nonsense.
Well,
come to the floor and actually have your argument and don't have another senator do it for you.
Well, if you're worried about trans stuff, right, let's just be honest. There's not a lot of trans people in rural Missouri. If the suburban people think this trans thing is a problem, and you know what? I think most of their constituents do, if you want the truth about it. They think this is something that should not, the kid trans thing is people are uncomfortable with. But okay, this is not really, there's not a lot of trans in Puxico, Missouri, right? So if you think it's a bad thing and a problem, it really doesn't exist in Jason Bean's district. So, but we have to constantly worry about everything it is just the St. Louis caucus. They're obsessed with St. Louis. I don't know that the trans issue really impacts the Boot Hill. I mean, I just don't. So if you're going to then ask rural people to elect folks to do your bidding, to take care of your problems, if you see a trans person has a problem, which a lot of people vocally do, you should probably demand they take care of folks in Puxico too, right?
Well, a lot of thoughts on that. I'll try to say this as succinctly as possible. One of the things that I was reading last night was from the War on Mormons in the state of Missouri. And in 1833, yes, right, there was the executive order under Governor Boggs was to drive out and execute the Mormons. And in that,
now they gave them warning.
Dozens of people died. I think 18 people ended up dying in Caldwell County when the cavalry came in to kick them out, right? Because they were different. They had different beliefs, and they were seen as other.
You want to know who defended them? General Alexander Donovan, who was a senator from Clay County, and an attorney, actually was the one that took the case and filed the suit to say he came up with a compromise. It said, okay, they're leaving independence. They came across the river, people that was too close. He's the one that sponsored the Caldwell County legislation so they'd have a home.
Well,
So they represented your neck of the woods.
that is interesting.
Yeah.
So, in the 70s, BSU is supposed to come here to play a game. They recognize that that order is still on the books, and Governor Kit Bond writes an executive order.
Was it 44, I think? Executive Order 44.
Is that right? Okay.
was
Anyway, I read this last night. Yes.
Mormon extermination.
Yes. Yeah. No, it was Executive Order 44.
And
You are
they said
correct.
extermination. That's what the word they used.
Yes. And so I was using that to say this is the history of our state. We have had times like this where we drive out these marginalized groups. And I heard that from my community, from constituents, from friends who have left the state because of the policies that we're enacting here. They feel like they're no longer safe and they've left the state. And what I'm saying is today is, where do we stop? After we're done attacking, right? The gays got their rights. They're able to marry now. So we went on
And
to a
nobody
different group.
cares.
Nobody cares, right?
The truth is,
it is your own
look,
personal
you
life,
could-
your own personal freedom.
There are people that I know that think being gay is a sin, and they think being married and marrying two gay people is a sin. And they pray for folks. That's their private belief. I respect it. It's not malicious. It's how they actually believe, right or wrong. A lot of folks take that and use it as a political thing because they are different. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Those are disingenuous and really, I think, set back that cause a lot.
Yeah. It's been frustrating to watch all of this play out. And I guess I've always been such a vocal ally because I feel like I have the space to be able to be a vocal ally, right? I'm a very,
Your district
whatever you want to say,
allows it.
kind of a traditional sense, right? I'm a person who was married young, 3 kids. I'm, very active in my Catholic faith. All of these things that I feel like, no, I am here to be an ally for those who are marginalized. And so anyway, last night it was frustrating how this all went down. But again, I always ask, right now we're attacking the trans community so much. When we tire of attacking them, who's next?
Well, I'll tell you this. There was a lot of people that said when gay folks got married, it was going to be a lot of bad things. I could personally say, from my estimation, gay people getting married didn't affect anything. I honestly, probably the people in the world that were most upset about it, they can't point to any one way this has impacted them at all.
Yeah.
It just didn't matter at the end of the day.
But Scott, last night we brought this up as an amendment just to make the point. Let's clean up Missouri statute and let's put a vote right here, up and down. Should gay marriage be legal in Missouri statute? And they voted it down. And so that's what I'm saying. It still is an issue. A lot of people still have a lot of bigotry, and they're trying to legislate that bigotry, and that's what's wrong.
But on the other hand, I do understand folks that think when you're 14 or 15, your mind is not that developed. And in fact, it's probably less developed than when you were 12 or 11 because you have all hormones and
Sure. No, I
probably
think that's fair.
not the time to be making a decision to have some radical surgery.
Well, and
now,
that's
I'm
what,
not one to tell people how to raise their kids.
No, absolutely. And that's what I
But-
think we've heard so much from medical providers. And I really did my homework on this and tried to learn as much as I could. First of all, are surgeries happening? And the answer was no, they're not happening to minors. And so different hormone suppressants, all these different things that are happening, again, under very careful medical guidelines by a medical provider who's trained in this.
You know, it's funny. I think there's some folks, some honest brokers, that would tell you the WashU clinic was not scrutinizing, maybe not under that close care and observation. And to me, that's such a bizarre thing. How did they think there wasn't going to be intense scrutiny? To me, this would be something that you'd put the most time into checking all the boxes. And I think some of the folks at WashU, I don't know that they can honestly say they met that standard.
Well, I'm not sure exactly everything that happened. However, I think, again, this is a space that we're going to look back in history and say legislators got into spaces that they really shouldn't have been in. And we try to legislate things that we didn't really understand and that are very new and evolving and ever-changing. And I think, again, this is why we allow things to be promulgated in the areas of expertise through medical guidelines and medical research. And all of those things need to play
So
out.
Give me the prediction. Does this pass?
I don't know what happens when stuff goes over to the House. It's already kind of a crazy omnibus bill. I imagine they continue to load it up with a lot of stuff. When it comes back over here, we'll see what happens, right? I understand and certainly respect Senator Huff and his desire to say, you know what, the FRA, this is a fundamental part of our state budget. It is a self-imposed tax that hospitals and nursing homes have done for now decades, since the 90s, and we need to stop having debates
Kid
about
Bond made it happen for Missouri.
Yeah.
One of the things he did early on in his career. Let's talk about the couple minutes we have left about Kansas City. Fun time to be in Kansas City right now.
Oh, it's an awesome time. We've got a lot of incredible stuff
really
going on,
do.
even though we didn't quite clinch that 3P. You know, we can't win the Super Bowl every year.
I was down there, and that might have been the worst game of football I've ever seen in my life.
It was painful. So I hope we find an O-line. If we want to put that up for an auction, if we could just find an O-line.
I mean, they're not that bad. Something happened. I mean, it just looked like something was going on. Because it's not just like the O-line. Nobody showed up to play. The defense didn't show up. Nothing showed up.
It was really painful, but we'll be back, and it's a great time to be in Kansas City.
Yep.
I mean, there's so much awesome stuff coming up. We're really gearing up for the World Cup in 2026.
Everybody tells me the current games are fun.
Have you been?
I have not.
We've got some tickets up at the auction.
The auction, yeah, I saw those.
Yeah, it's a beautiful. You're right there on the river. The thing about it is there's no bad seat in the stadium.
That's what I've heard.
Everybody's there. It really is.
And the
an
atmosphere is
incredible
fun.
atmosphere.
Yeah.
I mean, you're by the end of the game, you're high-fiving everybody, in front of you, behind you, and that's your first game you've ever been to, right? The food in the stadium's awesome. You're literally watching the river. The current flow by as the current's playing. I mean, it's awesome what we're finally doing to develop the riverfront down there. We've got everything going in terms of preparing for this World Cup. It's like for 6 games, we're going to be having a Super Bowl. I mean, every game is like a Super Bowl. That's the energy and the enthusiasm and the economic drive around it.
Well, I'll tell you what, it reminds me of the Courtyard by Marriott, the place you have to, if you're coming to Jeff City, don't be cheap. Put your company up at somewhere nice at the Courtyard. And the good folks at United Fiber, the best rural broadband in the great Northwest, as Senator Hageman would say. Thankful for them to sponsoring the show. Thankful for you for the time. A week from tonight, at the Missouri Farm Bureau, we'll be honoring Judge Russell, and we'll have our Women Legislators Caucus auction, which would be great. Do you think it's possible that we get a couple? Is anybody that's received a scholarship going to be there?
Do you know what? I'll have to talk to some of the young women. I know we have some young women at Mizzou right now. I'll see if they can pop over.
Be great.
Yeah.
Senator, thank you so much for your time. I know you have a lot to go to. You're talking about utilities today, it sounds like. Sounds like you're going to talk about utilities today.
Scott, there's one thing that I've learned very quickly. I think I was made for the Missouri Senate. I always have something to say.
Well, I don't even think it's that. You were made for the Missouri Senate because you have more energy than really anybody I know. You could be in the second hour of filibuster, and you don't act like you're hating this and want to leave. So to me, it's.
Somebody asked me the other day. They joked. They said, "Did you even get to your filibuster folder?" I said, "No, I never needed it."
I actually believe
I was just getting started.
That would be a scary sign for this afternoon and evening. But anyway, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Yep. We'll see you back here tomorrow. And then Thursday, Jake will be hosting. And then we'll have a show that I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't started booking yet, Sunday, for This Week in Missouri Politics. See you tomorrow. And see you.